Hey guys, it's Matt. Pennsylvania here. I think we're going to almost zero tomorrow, but that's nothing compared to Chicago and Wisconsin and the Dakotas that are already, I think, almost negative 20 without wind chill. It's going to be a brutal 3 days. Hats off to you for those in the cold like me. That's probably like 25 states. Just wanted to pop in for a few reasons. One, as I'm presenting these chapters, I don't want to become that nameless, faceless, unknown YouTube voice. Like, who the hell's behind this channel? I mean, in the truth community, why be nameless and faceless? They know who you are. They know everything you've clicked on. They know if you've been bad or good. Why bother? I mean, so I don't know. I guess if you have kids or a family, it's a little bit different and maybe makes you feel a little bit secure. So I wanted to pop in to show anybody that's potentially new who's behind this channel. Just a regular person trying to figure out an absolutely bizarro world. The world is not what it was when we grew up. I'm in my late 40s. It's changed. Something's changed. In several videos I've pondered, or we've pondered, did something happen? Or has it always been this way? And we now, being able to see with a different perspective or a different set of eyes, we can notice it. And I absolutely believe that something changed in the world itself. And that's not going to be the purpose of this video. We've kind of explored that before. I'm no closer to finding out what that change is. And what I mean is, when I go back and watch an old news broadcast, like Peter Jennings, for example, or even a Walter Cronkite, or Dan Rather in the late 80s. The presentation of reality was believable, more believable. The script was, it made sense. It wasn't, what you have today is, I don't even have words for it. There's a section in my book that I think I had already presented, where if aliens landed or aliens hovered like Independence Day over Chicago, and they patched into the news channels, they probably would think like The Bold and the Beautiful or The Young and the Restless, if these 35 or 40-year-old soaps are still on. They would think that, they would choose that as reality versus the news. I believe it is just that absurd, that bizarre. And the biggest question we've all had is, why can't the people around us see it? Because it is just, I watched the news last night almost all the way through for the first time in months. And I was mostly checking in for the weather to see what's going on in Wisconsin and how low their temperatures are and how brutal it is up there. It does fascinate me that people can live in areas like Buffalo, New York. It's bad enough here. But when you have, like, Buffalo will get, they get 3 feet of lake effect snow, just go about your business. That's normal. I don't know how they do it. So I do watch some of the weather stuff, but then you get into Roger Stone Indicted, that creepy character, Roger Stone. And folks, for anybody new here, I believe it's all a script. I don't believe any of it. And maybe I've gone too far. Let me know if I've gone too far. I don't believe any of it. I believe almost everything comes down from on high as part of, basically, for lack of better words, a script. That's just the way I interpret it. There's almost no other way to interpret it. By the way, and so in case I forget, Chapter 8, I will load by tomorrow morning at the latest. Chapter 8 will be tomorrow morning at the latest. It could be later today if I can do a few things, but it most likely will be tomorrow morning, Chapter 8. So I used to actually pop into the Alex Jones show. We know now, of course, exactly what Alex Jones is, his role in this grand play, his role working for the Puppet Masters. But I would pop in 2016 during this, quote, election. It all seemed very strange, but I didn't have the same perspective that I have now. And Roger Stone would pop in on the Alex Jones show, and a lot of times he'd be on the phone talking to Alex Jones about the campaign. Of course, what campaign? It's all fake. There was no real election. We know that now. If anybody's new here, that might be shocking, but it's blatantly obvious to anybody that can see. So anyway, he'd be on the phone, and just because he's on the phone, the Alex Jones show would show pictures of him. Every 10 seconds, they'd rotate a new picture. They were all a little strange, a little creepy, till you got to the one where he was standing with his shirt off and his back to the camera, and he had a gigantic tattoo of Nixon's head. Nixon's head on his back. Roger Stone, this guy under indictment. He was huge in the Nixon administration. Now, I'm going, is that photoshopped? Is that... But they showed it every time he was on the phone, this guy, over the course of several weeks, they'd show these same 5 pictures. And he looked all proud of his tattoo on his back. Was it a henna tattoo that wore off in a week? Or it was just, no matter what it was, if it was photoshopped, it's creepy. Matt, would you like to I'll take a picture of you, Matt, with just your shirt off and your back, and we'll Photoshop a picture of Nixon's head. No, thank you. And then we'll put that picture all over the worldwide internet. No, thank you. It's creepy no matter what it is. If he has the real tattoo of Nixon's head on his back, well, that's real creepy. But now he's under indictment. I don't buy any of it. I don't know what the intention of the script is or why. It just, I don't buy it. Even I don't know. There's certain areas I was going to go to, I'm not going to go to. But I wonder sometime if I've gone too far. And every time I look up at like the news, Robert Mueller is investigating this aspect of the Trump administration because of this involvement with Russia. I mean, 2.5 years later, or about that, we're still at Russians hacked the election, Russians hacked the elections, Russians hacked the election, Russians hacked the... What? It's bizarre. It's bizarre why people around us just don't get up, drinking their coffee, and just go, this is all bullshit. Who could buy this? So that's the biggest mystery to you and me. Why everybody buys it. It's beyond mind control. It has to be some sort of spellcraft. There's no other explanation. Why we're immune to it? Levette's been talking about that. Why we're immune to it? I don't know. We are immune to it, at least for now. I've never had a smartphone. Maybe that's one thing in my defense. I'm sure that's not the factor. Many of you have smartphones, so that's not. I do have the smart TV now. It hasn't changed me at all. It has not changed me at all. It's not 4K, but I do have the smart. Anything smart, by the way, guys, implies that the device is listening to you. It's a term put out by the system itself a long time ago. Anything with the term smart is a device that in some way is of the system or does something for the system, or the system can track metrics, or can track how many times you push toast down into your toaster. That's what the word smart is. Whenever they must show you, they drop truth, and for some reason, per that cosmic law of karma, they must show, or they must reveal in some way. We know that now. It's too painfully obvious because they go out of their way to reveal, at least for the few of us that can see. So Roger Stone indicted. Again, I don't buy any of it. I don't know what their intentions are, what they're doing. But then we get into what was the other aspect of the news? More about the shutdown. Again, to me, 100% crafted. Both sides of the aisle knew exactly what was going on. There isn't both sides of the aisle. There's one system. They knew exactly what they were doing. There is no Republicans versus Democrats in a shutdown. There's zero truth in that, in my opinion. But the point is, why people can't see it, why people around us are so ignorant, per the pure definition of the word ignorant, that why don't the people around us just say, well, why didn't Trump build this wall when Republicans controlled all aspects of government? Why is the fight on the wall happening when Pelosi's back in? Again, it's all crafted stage show, but you know what I mean. Why is the fight going down now? Why didn't he do it a year ago? Nobody asked that. Why don't the people around us ask that? But the bigger question is, and what a lot of people don't realize is, as if anything were real, Mexico Unexplained. By the way, for my list, Mexico Unexplained, I am going to say if the world was real, because was just flows better in that statement. This isn't a math class. I mean a grammar class, Mexico Unexplained. But for now, I will say if politics or what the president is as it's presented to us were real, then the president would simply come forth to a podium, if anything was real, and he would say, well, as commander-in-chief, I control a $650 billion defense budget. I'm just going to take the $4 billion I need from that $650 that I already control. Every aspect the president controls, every aspect. He doesn't have to go to anybody. He doesn't have to fight with anybody. He controls the military budget as the commander-in-chief. Just divert part of, well, then a few F-85 fighter planes wouldn't get built. Well, so what? Divert some funds and just start building the wall. He would just start building it. He wouldn't be waiting or trying to get permission or compromising with Democrats. You just start building it. And say it's national defense. He would take to the podium and say, this has to do with he would just use those old Clancy terms, a clear and present danger. Once we cross that threshold, the president has the authority to protect the United States. And then he could drum up all sorts of evidence like El Chapos are flying across the border and guns are being run. He could drum up any statistic he wants saying this wall is to be built for national security reasons. Once he justifies that, he has all the authority in the world in any court, even some little geeky little San Francisco circuit court that overturns everything supposedly Republicans do. That's part of the script. He would just start doing it. He would send his bulldozers down. Well, you can't do that. Well, why not? He would just start building it. He doesn't need permission. Why don't people realize this? The people around us. Well, it would be blocked. Fine, some San Francisco circuit court would pop up and block it. Well, so what? I'm going to continue to build. I have my troops, the National Guard down there. What's the circuit court going to do? Organize a San Francisco posse in Toyota Priuses and fly down there with their pea shooters and physically take the border back? I don't say fine they would have to just keep pushing it up to the Supreme Court. That's assuming any of this is real. It's not. Once we've pushed up to the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court then said that the lower court's decision in the Castro district of San Francisco is upheld, then at that point the president has to stop, or there'd be a constitutional crisis and an impeachment type situation. But until that happened, he would just build it. Do you see how ridiculous this shit is in the news, and why can't people around us see it? He has access to $650 or more billion. And then he could say, look, since I'm doing this all on my own, I'm not going to do it the way I want to do it. We're just going to start doing triple chain link fence. You know how easy that is? A team of like 500 people could start doing chain link fence with minimal equipment, triple with some extra drones. It's just why people don't literally watch the news and go, well, why didn't he do it when the Republicans were in office? And why doesn't he just do it? Why? How have they convinced everybody that he needs all this permission to do everything and everything's blocked? No, it's not. They're so desperate in their presentation of the script that even the basis on which government's supposed to work, how government's set up, or the Constitution. Obviously, we know that there's no Constitution honored. It hasn't been honored for 100 years. But they're contradictory in the way they even tell us now government is supposed to work. They'll say, well, we can't do this because government works like this. Then over here, they'll do the exact opposite and say, well, we can do this. And it just doesn't make any sense anymore to anybody paying attention. There was one other aspect of, I don't know, the fake way government and politics is presented in the news related to Trump, but I can't quite remember it at this time. But look, guys, I just, it is the reality of this world is there's no words to it. It gets more and more strange by the day. There's more and more rabbit holes for us conspiracy people to chase. At this moment, I have no stance or no position on mud flood. I watch the videos. What's the guy's name? Martin Leakey or Flat Earth British, or I watch the videos. I reserve judgment. I'm not going to jump on board there. Why? Some old photos? No, I'm not ready to jump on board there. My family tree book that I looked at briefly, I'd like to look at it for hours. I didn't have time. Just shows our family history back to basically 16-something. There's no mention of global cataclysm or anything like that. That doesn't mean it didn't happen in certain areas, and I didn't look at the tree book that closely, but I'm not ready to jump on board there, guys. But I'm not trying to pick a fight with those channels either. I'm watching the videos. I appreciate those that are doing them. They seem well researched, like a Conspiracy R Us. They're interesting. I'll watch. A lot of the information is new to me. It's very intriguing, but I'm not gonna jump on board. There's not enough. I mean, just basic. There's not enough to overturn the common sense of Well, when I was a baby, I was supposedly held by my grandmother's mother, who was very old, born in 18. I mean, I'm not that old. I was held by somebody born in 18. Whew, gosh, it would have been like 1890. I was born in 1970. Okay. So she was very old, but not that old. But so if there was a global cataclysm 30 or 40 years before, her name was They called her Grossi. I guess they were German, that part of the family. Don't you think they would have said, "Oh, well, I never told you this, Kate, my grandmother, but I haven't, growing up, I just forgot about it. But there was a huge cataclysm, and half the world was wiped out. But I've forgotten to tell you between bites of this chicken nugget." At some point, those people, it's not like they were that removed from those people. See what I'm saying? Those people would have said something. I'm not there yet. I'm not trying to pick fights with those channels. But do you see? Maybe am I missing something? Why somebody born in 1890, and this is just somebody that I have personal interaction with. There's how many other people that they wrote books. So they were born in 1860, and they were born in 1860 and lived up to 1950 or so, or 1955. There were TV shows then. There were news programs. They could publish their own book. They could go on a soapbox and stand on a street corner. They just forgot to mention there was a worldwide. Am I getting the dates wrong? Because they pushed the cataclysm dates like mid 1800s. I don't know. Guys, just be skeptical, and we appreciate the work that these channels are doing. I'm not trying to pick a fight with anybody. The other aspects of that are Tartaria. Same thing. Max Egan jumps on Tartaria. This whole empire existed. I've seen a bunch of maps. You guys have shown. How do I know? I'm not saying it didn't exist. I know there's nobody more skeptical of the system in this world than me. I've worked tirelessly for 10 years to point out that this system is some sort of fake crafted reality. Nothing about it is real. It's sinister in its nature. It's an energy parasite of some kind. We've gone down that. Nobody's more skeptical of the system than me. So if they've lied about, of course they've lied about our history. No, they've lied about everything. But I have, other than just people showing me these maps, I have no evidence this global Tartaria. Yeah, New Earth says the Mongol horde of Genghis Khan. She's right. New Earth channel. It doesn't make any sense. Mongolia, the pictures there now. You could go to Mongolia. There's like 5 people in a tent over here, and that's like a city in Mongolia. And to get to the next Mongolian city, you have to travel like 4,000 miles. And then there's another 5 people in a tent, and they have 4 or 5 yaks. There's nobody there. So where did they, like New Earth, with a video, I don't know, 3 videos back or 2 videos back, says this Mongolian horde supposedly took over all of Europe, conquered all of China. That's what it's presented in Marco Polo, the Netflix series Marco Polo. If you can get by the fake history, it's well done. It's interesting. I watched Marco Polo. I enjoyed it. I enjoy the characters. Anything that even is closely tied into any potentially kung fu or sword fight, I just like that stuff. I like the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and anyway. So yeah. Then even in that series, they conquer China. There's nobody in Mongolia to invade thousands of not thousands of square miles. You want to talk square miles? It's hundreds of thousands of square miles. So I appreciate what New Earth channel's saying. Well, how'd they do it? It's bullshit. But on other things, I mean, am I saying definitively the Genghis Khan and the Mongol Empire? I don't know. I don't know. And if I don't know, it's ignorant for me to say I know. But I do know that, if there's like nobody there now, where did all these people come from to invade other countries? It does make sense. So we'll continue to watch the Tartaria videos. I'm not jumping on board. Why would I? It's not enough there. Other than show me a bunch of old maps. So what? The other issue is the tied in is the Foundlings, initially presented by Conspiracy R Us, and the Orphans. It's some of that's interesting, but it relates right back to global cataclysm. If there's global cataclysm, well, what was the global cataclysm that killed all the adults and left all these children, parentless children? It's never quite explained how that came to be. I've heard about the orphan train, and we do hear stories about children working in these factories, and why were the children needed to work in these factories? There was what happened to all the adults, and there's some interesting breadcrumbs to follow there, and I appreciate them following it. But there are no conclusions, in my opinion. And the last thing that does get most of my attention, I think there's the most merit to it. But this is going to be long and all over the place, guys. I mean, people are freezing out all over the country. What else is there to do? And there's no YouTube channels to go to anymore. I mean, it's just void. It really is. I remember a day when you could it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. We were in the midst of just in the middle of truth, understanding what this reality was all about, the fake events, fake shootings, breaking down 9/11. There wasn't a time you could go to your computer and put on YouTube where there wasn't something very interesting to watch. Going back to the heydays of Russian vids and all the rest of them, of which I was on the tail end of that. But now it's just void. It's totally void. There's nothing. Well, not nothing, but it's very, very sparse in terms of anybody taking anything to the next level. Now, the last thing that gets my attention is the architecture. This does get my attention, and those that present the other issues all tie it together. They tie together the mud floods, the Foundlings, the Orphans, Tartaria, and the architecture. Should it all be tied together? I don't know. I don't see why. But the architecture, first of all, again, I would say to newbies, who are you talking to here? Like, I am skeptical of everything the system has ever put forth. Of course, I believe our history has been fabricated. Everything's been fabricated. But there is merit to. So I kind of poo-pooed the other things, and I didn't poo-poo them. I said I'm holding back judgment on the other things, and I'm continuing to watch. Let me rephrase. But on this architecture, it gets more of my attention, and people are going, "What are you talking about, Matt?" So let me explain. Basically, there are buildings that exist that the architecture is so grand, so grandiose, so impossible to erect with horses, for example, or primitive tools of man and women of 18 whatever, that you would say it had to be built by something else or someone else or a different culture that we've lost touch with. This gets my attention. Now people are screaming at this video right now going, "How could you say that, you goddamn son of a bitch? If you just poo-pooed the Tartari Empire." I didn't poo-poo it. I'm holding judgment. So maybe this is a real breadcrumb in my face. This will lead me to Tartaria someday. Haven't I been lecturing for months like not to follow the piston breadcrumbs? Look, I don't know. It's freaking cold out. What else are we going to do today? Let's follow the piston breadcrumbs. Although I do believe the reality itself is set up to lay these breadcrumbs, to have us in a never-ending search for looking for something new. And the reality itself, I believe, can generate new rabbit holes. I do believe that. So, yeah, Matt is not a believer. Everything's totally real and solid, and it is some sort of a fluid reality. It can generate piston breadcrumbs. I do believe it can do that. Because it's never-ending. Like, what's your threshold? So we do Tartaria, we do mud floods, and then something else will pop up. Oh, there are all these ancient relics on the other side of the moon. Or I'm just making that up. But there will be something. Is there any doubt something will pop up? So either the system itself is generating it, or reality itself is generating it. No, Matt, we're just finding more and more out. Maybe. But you know what I mean. What's your threshold? Like, I'm going to be sitting here like 75 years old. What's the conspiracy this month? And boom, something will pop up that just blows you away. At that point, I would have passed my threshold. Say, well, reality itself is generating this bullshit. I'm not eating the piston breadcrumbs anymore. We're almost there. I'm almost there at this point. So, the architecture, Matt, get to the point. You go down to Philadelphia, the middle of Philadelphia on Market Street. I don't know what it is, 15th and Market. I guess 15th and Market, right around there, the City Hall building of Philadelphia, and it blows you away. It's like no other building in Philadelphia. Columns, and inside is just marble, and the gargoyles carved, and just this huge. Man, I'm sure somebody right now could say, Matt, I could show you pictures of the construction, how they got William Penn's statue up there. It's no magical mystery, Matt. Okay, but I haven't researched the City Hall building of Philadelphia that much, but I'm just using it as an example where all of a sudden you come across this architecture and you go, what? I mean, how could man of the time or woman of the time have built this thing? It just doesn't make sense with the equipment they would have had available and how they carved the giant stone columns. Now, this is replicated all over the place. These buildings pop up. And in the case with Philadelphia, just a little bit more evidence. If you go to Wikipedia right now, it actually says something on Wikipedia about they toyed with tearing it down, or they thought about tearing it down. And this is just, I went out there a few weeks ago. Wikipedia said, but tearing it down would have bankrupted the city. So well, if tearing it down would have bankrupted the city, why didn't building it bankrupt the city? That's only 1,000 times more expensive. You need all these stone masons, and so and that's related to the people that present the Tartaria and the mud flood videos. They'll do a guy recently did a whole video about the Capitol building in every state, and it's just this weird theme that presents itself, or script, where the Capitol building in Wisconsin, the Capitol building in Minnesota, or just all these different states. Just pick a state. First off, they're all these huge columned Roman architecture. They all follow the Roman architecture. To me, that is an ode to Rome. This is just another manifestation of the Roman Empire that morphed into the Catholic Church. I think it's all related. There's no reason they didn't just choose all this Roman architecture in every single state building because it was pretty. No, there's something to it. It's a shrine to themselves in some way. Even the San Francisco City Hall building is just incredible. So you do say, how did they build it? But also, when these things were built, the people doing these videos show, I'm just picking a state, I don't know. Here's the Madison, Wisconsin State House building. And it's built like in a field, this huge, grandiose building like the cathedral at Cologne, Germany. I'll talk about that in a moment. I've been there. That is truly a wonder of the world. But it's just built in the middle of a field. There's nothing around. Well, Matt, they knew that it would be a population center. Well, yeah, but that's kind of the point. It's all planned out. Of course they knew it. But nothing happens organically, or at least what most people think 90% of this happens normally and organically, or businesses just moved in, or people moved because they chased the business. The coal mining was there. And no, it's planned. It's a script. More comes down from Mount Olympus than you can imagine. It's a big theme in my book. So they have pictures of, they never have pictures of how these things are actually constructed. So there is merit in people that say there was a technique or something utilized that is just, it's like a technology withheld, or ancient knowledge withheld. Because you'd say, how'd they build these things? These gigantic domes. I could see if the greatest stonemasons in the world came together in 1820 on behalf of the Vatican Church, and they did something just with unlimited deep pockets. But they did it all over the place. Every state, even the San Francisco, again, city building, Philadelphia City Hall. Wikipedia says it couldn't even be torn down when they tried to tear it down because it would have bankrupted the city to tear it down. Well, you said that, Matt. Yeah, I know. You talking to a little light for like 40 minutes. It's not easy. You can repeat yourself from time to time, or pee yourself. Hopefully not. If I have to go, I'll get up and go. But in the building, so there could have been the conspiracy, first grade conspiracy, and there's some merit to this. They would say, Matt, listen, everything's not a conspiracy. If somebody was sitting me down to talk to me, they'd say, listen, we know that this power structure has to defend its ruse. It has to maintain ultimate control, the thumb down on everybody's head. It always will go out of its way to create the most incredible, intimidating, grandiose state buildings. Because when people look at it, it implies government, authority, control. The same reason why the Nazis had the most beautiful, perfect uniforms. This is all psychological. It's Psychology 101. When somebody approaches you in a uniform like that, a perfect uniform that has a sinister air to it, you do what that person says. It's all part of the psychology. It's the same reason why if you're pulled over, I don't know about other state police, I'm sure they're all the same. You're pulled over on the Pennsylvania Turnpike by a Pennsylvania State Police. They have this huge round hat, perfect brim, sunglasses, perfect dress, leather. Philadelphia City Police, they used to ride the horse, leather, bright badge. The dress, you already are psychologically intimidated without even consciously realizing it from the moment you lay eye on that policeman or state trooper or authority figure. So is it just that times 100 why every single state building is grandiose? They said when they planned all this, said no expenses can be spared. They can print up whatever they want. We need to make these buildings very intimidating. They have to imply we're in control, and that's possible. But there's a little something more to it, and it also relates back to somebody, that really follows this Tartaria stuff or the mud flood stuff closely is really disappointed I haven't mentioned this. But it would go back to what these people say, where the note about them even thinking about tearing down an incredible building like the Philadelphia City Hall building is because the mud flood people would say would say that these buildings, many have been burned and torn down because they are actually they want to cover up the old methods of building. They want to cover up. They don't want us to walk by as we're doing now and going, that couldn't be built in 18 whatever when they said. They don't. So a lot of these buildings, as the people that follow the mud flood very closely know, have gone away or were burned. And one guy that covered the state capitals, like all of them burned before they erected the most recent one. And I don't know the chances of that many, not all of them, but there's been so many that burned. That's the story of the script before they erected the new one. I don't buy it. There's so much going on that's just so impossible to explain in this reality. That's why we have to think around two corners. We have to think in completely different ways. Thinking reality is somehow fluid, or those in control here have actually found a way to manipulate the very nature of it. That's first grade. I mean, that's almost obvious that's happening. That's first grade conspiracy. Go back and watch. I was going to say, how do these buildings of all stone, how do they all burn down? Where's all the tinder inside to burn them? The script puts forth that all these state capitals burned, and then they erected the new one. But it brings me back to, do you remember the church, the Serbian Orthodox Church, Saint Sava, I think it was called, Saint Sava in New York City, that burned? 3 Orthodox churches burned on the Orthodox Easter around the world. Just 3 happened to totally torch on the Orthodox Easter, which is not the regular normal Easter. It's a different date. But so Saint Sava, the interesting thing about it, go watch the YouTube of Saint Sava burning. It's like nothing you've seen. It's one of these churches with a big circular stained glass, and the stained glass is blown out, and there's a river of fire that's shooting out of the circle, 50 feet up into the air. People made YouTube videos. The pits of hell opened up, or what is this? And it just doesn't make sense, because inside, where's the fuel needed to do that? Pews burning 30 feet below. The flames leapt up 30 feet. I have wood stoves here. I cut a lot of wood. I know, I just know the nature of burning wood. I just don't see where the fuel was to shoot a 50-foot pillar of flame, like literally like those, like, what do they say, fire nados out west. So, and you can actually go back and watch YouTube videos inside St. Sava. It's, other than the pews, where's the fuel for the fire? How does it burn? And then, coincidentally, I should have mentioned this, Tesla's bust, because I guess he was Serbian, is right outside the church. And one of the YouTube videos on St. Sava is that somebody just pans around the camera. There's posters on the wall. If you freeze it, it says like a century of fire in one of the posters. It's totally, the reality itself is bizarre, folks. There's things going on here, the likes of which we just can't even imagine. Maybe one day, the day of our death, perhaps, I'd like to have the answers before that, but we'll go, oh, is that what it was? Kind of like waking up from a dream. I think this life to the next could be that simple. Wake up from a dream. You're in the dream, you're being chased by something, or you're late for the test and everything's so horrible and it's real. You're in the dream, of course. Your mind believes it's real, of course. And you wake up and you're in a bed, whole new reality, and you go, oh, that's what that was. It makes sense. We have any eggs? It could be that simple. I believe it probably is that simple. This life to the next. Oh, Earth. Oh, that's what that was. That makes sense. Let's move. Now, it would be nice if it's that simple. Is there a noticeable sinister element here? Do I pay attention to Dan, who talks about very sinister creatures and some sort of a soul recycling? Do I pay attention to that? Yes, I do. I take that very seriously. That is one option that's on the table. There are many options on the table, but one option on the table is we pass from this existence, and it's, oh, I remember what that was. I wish I didn't take it so seriously, like in the dream when I was being chased by the monster. I wish I didn't just turn around and go, I'm in a dream. You can't, do anything to it. And maybe it's that simple. Maybe we should start living our life like we're just, okay, one day we'll just have it all figured out. Maybe on the day of our passing. Is that on my table? Absolutely. It could be that simple. In most cases, the answer is going to be simple. Guys, and last topic. It's getting very long, but hey, people freezing out. What else is there to do? I had written down. This was like a 30-minute video, but I'm gonna do it in 5 or 6 minutes. One of the ways to get a whole new perspective on reality is to trace what was presented to us, like you could say, follow the river all the way back to its source, to its. Here's the Mississippi, then go all the way up into Canada, its little streams and tributaries, and there's the source. I don't know. Maybe it's just a spring or something. I'm not a river expert, but you know what I mean. Follow it all the way back as far as you can. In this exercise, you can follow all of these things back. And again, they're just another tool to break down reality. So anything from all the creepiness in the Denver airport, 9/11, how the Weather Underground, the NBC Weather Service, named itself after the domestic terrorist, the Weather Underground. You can actually go to Wikipedia. The Weather Service named itself, the program on Weather Channel named itself after domestic terrorists. Well, I don't believe that's real either. I believe that whole Bill Ayers, Kathy Bodine, they all got professor jobs. I believe it's all part of the script, 100% fake. I don't believe almost anything anymore. Maybe I've gone too far. But fake moon landings, chemtrails, stock market has been completely digitized, manipulated into zeros and ones. For all of these things, the point is, how do you trace any of these things all the way back to the source and get a different perspective on reality? And one way to do it is, let's just take the Denver airport, for example. What's the initial, what I mean, if you're not familiar with that, there are all these creepy murals in the Denver airport that depict children being burned alive, children in coffins, death, Armageddon, end of the world, Nazi characters stabbing a dove. I mean, just really dark, creepy murals, a gargoyle popping out of a suitcase, which is a real bronze statue. There's a blue devil horse out front called Blucifer. So if you don't, just understand that this artwork in the Denver airport is just off the charts creepy if you're not familiar with it. Beyond anything that you could imagine ever got into the airport. And that's exactly my point. What's the initial conversation see, this is where the reality breakdown comes in. The initial conversation that got all that artwork approved. So let's just do the Denver airport. You'll see what I mean. And then try to do this with all the other, with anything, 9/11, Sandy Hook, the building of CERN. You could do it. Okay, let me just get to the point. So at some point, how did the artwork make its way into the Denver airport? Well, at some point there had been a meeting before the construction was finished. And there'd be different people at this meeting. This is if the world were real. Maybe we assume these meetings went on. Reality may work completely different. We don't know. But who would be at this meeting? Well, the representatives from the Denver mayor's office, the planning commission representing the engineers building the airport, maybe somebody from the governor's office in Colorado, maybe some people from the FAA, federal FAA. This is what we'd assume if the world was real. There'd be 12 people around a table. Isn't that interesting? I chose that number. Whatever. There'd be 10 people around a table. And they would say, well, what's next on the list of our agenda today? We're doing very well. We'll go to lunch after this. What's next? Oh, let's take a break from all the financials and all the tough stuff. Let's do the artwork. Now we have one of the artists here. They're going to present some sketches, some concept art of the art director for the airport. It's going to show you concept art, and they would pass out the leaflets and see if anything were real. The person that represents the governor's office or the mayor's office would look at all the concept art. You don't have to know all of this creepy stuff at the Denver airport to follow me. They would look at it and go, this is what you're proposing goes in the airport? Well, yeah, this is the concept art of what we're going to do. Well, these murals depict death. This mural depicts dead children, people being burned alive. All these murals depict, and how big are they supposed to be? 20 feet by what? They all depict death and the end of the world. Here's a creepy gargoyle popping out of a suitcase. Is that what somebody wants to see flying for the first time? Or as they pull up to the airport, there's a giant devil horse with veins and red eyes. See, it wouldn't go anywhere. And you want to propose let's go to page 2. You want to propose a time capsule in one of the terminals with a little plaque, which is an ode to the Freemasons, that talks about something called the New World Airport Commission. I've been, whoever's at the meeting, if the world were real, they're conducting the meeting and say, I've been associated with this airport and the building of it for now a year and a half, and I don't know of any New World Airport Commission. So can you tell me why this would be on the stone plaque? And what are you going to bury in the time capsule? Comic books? It wouldn't go anywhere. It would say, no, this is unacceptable. This is going to be the hub to the West, people. Everybody that needs to change over is going to change over in Denver to get to Seattle, to Phoenix, to San Francisco. Bring me back new concept art. This ain't going to fly. Get out of here. Get out of my sight. That's how it would work. If these creatures that run things are like you and me. See, who knows, how did it get in there? And you can do that with anything. Think of how, 9/11. You can't go any farther in terms of tracing the river up to its source than this. Who was the first person that proposed to who that we should bring down the World Trade Centers and blame it on, even if, whatever you level the conspiracy, whatever level the conspiracy you believe it to be, whether you believe, obviously 19 hijackers didn't do it, it's all absurd. It's 100% absurd. There's not one element of the official story that's true for anybody new here. Not one element that's true. It's all fake. All of it's fake. But for those here, we disagree on different aspects of it. First grade conspiracy is, they just brought the towers down so they'd have justification to go fight Middle Eastern wars. They like that as a nice side effect or side benefit or tertiary benefit, but that's not why it was done to me. It was some sort of a ritual. It was an effect, or it was an attempt to affect reality itself, even the fabric of reality. I believe that. I don't want to go into anything more than that for the newbies. But to me, first grade conspiracy is, oh, they have a reason to fight their foreign wars. Yeah, that they did like that aspect of it, but that's not. It was like ushering in New Age, like from a cult spellcraft perspective, in my opinion. But the point is, no matter what you believe it to be, at this point, doesn't matter. Who proposed to who initially the idea to do it? How is that done? I mean, if you think about that, it's so creepy. And the nature of reality may work if we're in a matrix being fed. There was no initial conversation, because when you trace all of these to the initial meeting around a table, oh, somebody just brought in donuts and bagels, and would you like more coffee? Bring in more coffee. It all breaks down. Like, you couldn't have these conversations around a meeting table. Again, 9/11, somebody, I mean, where does that idea come from? Came from Dick Cheney? No, that's just kindergarten stuff. Dick Cheney and Jared Kushner, drew their pentagram and communed with their interdimensional demon, and they heard the words, "Take down Twin Towers. We must take down Twin Towers." And they just, or obviously it wasn't Dick Cheney, because Rockefellers put it in. Somebody's screaming at this video right now. Right, 33 years before, Rockefellers put it in motion. They knew when they were being constructed. They were built to come down. It relates to 2001: A Space Odyssey, 2 into 1. The fact that the creepy monolith, was the closest building left standing was the monolith from 2001, the Space Odyssey. The monolith, the Millennium Hilton Hotel was constructed to be the monolith from the movie. Of course, it's all on purpose. 1968, the year the towers were constructed, also the year that the 911 emergency system went in. Matt, are you actually implying that the 911 emergency system was put in place to match up in some creepy way in a cult linkage to 9/11 and the number they love, 911? Yeah, that's what I'm proposing. Why would you pick 9/11? If your house, if the power goes out, there's a fire, smoke's filling up, in your house, and you can't see anything. And back in the day, for up until I was in 5th or 6th grade, we had rotary, the Chris Rock. You'd have to dial it. People under 30 don't understand this. You put your finger in 5. Chris Rock doing this in Lethal Weapon. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I made a mistake. Start all over. 1. You had to dial the thing up. So they're going to make the numbers. It's pitch black. You got to call emergency services. Even if you find the 9, you got to find the 9, and then you've got to find a number on this dial pad. Put your finger in a number that's farthest from it. Most people, when that was put in place, or everybody, had the rotary. Nobody had the button pushing. I mean, in a lot of countries, it's like the same digit, or was it meant to actually match up with 9/11? Yeah, in my opinion, it was. The same year the towers were constructed. 1968, when I first learned about that, it seemed awfully late for the emergency system to go in, when other countries, the UK and other countries, have had emergency 3 digits for at least 15 to 20 years. At least before the US did. Maybe they waited. Literally, because the occult significance of all of this is more important to them than obviously helping anybody. So if you pick any of these, so again, like, how does that, who's the first person to propose to bring the towers down, and then who said, oh yeah, that sounds good, let me take that, who then takes it to who? See what I'm saying? It's a complete reality breakdown. And it even if you say whatever your idea of the deep state is, whatever elements of the NSA or CIA, this goes beyond what we understand about the operations of normal men and women. Most of these things turn into reality breakdown that goes beyond what normal men and women could accomplish. Pick anything on this list. The building of CERN. If you trace that back, nobody ever talks about this. But if you trace any of these events back to its root, go back in time as far as you can imagine, or walk up the river to its source, like the building of CERN. People, it exists today, so most people around us, and even people in the truth community, don't, they build it, and, obviously it's not what they say it is. It's just not to smash particles together so they can get an idea of how the universe was formed. If you trace that back, the initial conversation, how does that happen? We need to build representatives from the European Union are in this room. I don't know. Obviously, I don't think it's that. I think it's dark creatures behind a curtain, of which we'll never truly understand what that is. But when you trace it back to the boardroom, again the reality breaks down. Well, we want to build this particle collider. You've heard they exist at Stanford already, and we want to build the world's largest. And well, how big? Well, it's going to extend from Switzerland all the way into another country, France. And it's going to be, it needs to be underground, under at least 300 or 400 people's homes and property. Probably many more, I'm just guessing, I don't know. And what's the cost? Well, initially, billions, initially. I mean, much, much more over time. And, of course, the environmental representative who thinks isn't there all this environmental regulation? They just did away with all that just build this thing underground under two countries. Of course, because there's something else going on here. But if it is what they say it is, it would have never been approved. They would say, okay, well then what do you want to do with it? Well, we just want to smash particles together to get an idea on how the universe was formed. Oh, okay. We can approve that. See, if the real reason for what CERN is so off-world, so beyond what we can imagine it to be, something to influence reality itself, that when it was presented, whatever creepy figure presented it, the money didn't matter. The paperwork or the environmental laws didn't matter. The fact that they had to just build under people's homes, hundreds and hundreds of people. It's not just open space. They build under farms, and it goes under where people live. They don't. Maybe a little particle comes by, they can hear it. Here comes a particle, hun, right under the cows. I don't know, but they just said, well, environmental regulation, need for approval, red tape, normal channels, tear it up. They just got it done. When they want to get something done, all of that stuff doesn't matter. So obviously, if you trace CERN back to that how the initial conversation went down, you can see that it's obviously just not about trying to smash particles together so we can get a picture of, or try to find a new particle. Here's a smaller particle, Higgs boson, and we can just smash. We'll just keep smashing for another 10 years, and we can even find a smaller particle, like Russian nesting dolls. But what do we do when we find a new particle? Great, we can publish an article. That's worth the billions of dollars spent and 20 years of digging, and that's worth all of it just to have a glimpse of another particle. Who would give a shit to do all this for another particle? It would never happen. Nobody would put the money up. It's for CERN does, and I'm not one of these Mandela affected people. I am a Mandela affected person, but I meant to say that immediately blames what I see as the Mandela effect on CERN. I just don't. Whenever society's script is too quick, Mandela effect, oh, that's CERN's fault. Mandela effect, that's Geordie Rose's fault, the D-Wave computer. Whenever we're scripted to spit that out too quickly, then it's not that. In other words, if it's so prevailing that that's the reason, that to me, that's clear evidence it's not the reason. If it's too obvious, it's not it, if you see what I'm saying. So guys, this has been a long one. I do like a chapter back or a chapter or two back. I absolutely love the Bruce Gender discussion. It's fascinating to me how the societal puppet masters, these social puppet masters, laid that down and implemented that for all of us. None of it came up organically. None of it came up normally or naturally. Bruce Jenner played a role. And I could talk about that once a week with people. It's just fascinating how they impose that on all of us, and nobody noticed it was being imposed. People just believe it was just an athlete that wanted to be a woman. And it was so interesting that it just made the cover of all these magazines. No, it was, in my opinion, it is 100% crafted, script. I don't believe Bruce Jenner even ever wanted to be a woman. He was asked to play a role. He was forced to play a role. And he told Diane Sawyer he still has his member. So they said to him, look, you get some hormones, you'll do this, parade yourself around in that white dress for a year and a half and keep your member. And then we've got great doctors. At the end, no implants, no breast implants. He didn't get them. He didn't cut it off. At the end, Bruce, you'll be worth $100 million or more. And we'll get you a good doctor, put you on weight training and steroids. And we'll turn you back into a man when it's all over. Maybe he's kind of enjoying this, and he's extended out his contract. He's like, I love being world famous and making $100 million a year and doing all these reality shows, so I'll just continue to pretend I'm a woman for years. But at some point, he probably said to him, look, there's no risk. With hormones, we'll turn you right back into a man whenever you say, and you'll be a very, very rich man. I think it's that simple. And now, why they tried to lay down, or what the real, people would call it. Levitt would disagree, but like a Baphomet agenda, where they, now they have to confuse a Luciferian agenda. Now they have to confuse gender. Everything is inverted. What is up is down. They have to invert and confuse everything. That is part of what they were doing. I don't truly understand the full occult nature of what they attempted to do in the Bruce Jenner force-fed implementation, followed by Gigi Gorgeous and all the rest. There was a 2-year period on YouTube where you couldn't even turn on YouTube without the Gigi Gorgeous movie being forced on you. I tried to click the X to get rid of it many times, just kept coming back. Maybe because it knew I had made videos about that subject, but it probably was force-fed on everybody. And then, the whole system tells us for years and years that we're not supposed to, girls have unrealistic role models, and it shouldn't just be about looks. And now we have models that are a little chubby, and, we're getting away from that Kate Moss and getting away from that. That's what the left, there is no left and right, but that's what the left preached. And then the Gigi Gorgeous and this transgender is all about, go look at the trailer for the G.I. Gorgeous movie, and it says it says underneath it I forget what the tagline is. Everything is all about me and looks, and it's like, oh, I'm so beautiful, and looking in the mirror and oh, look at me, everything's so on one hand they say that that's not the way to be, but then the reality of this society, they feed you everything about the transgender movement is very egotistical. It's very, look at me. It's very, it's all about the avatar. It's all about, maybe we just came across the answer. One of the main elements or goals of this script is to get people to believe that all they are is the body. All they are is the avatar. Not that there is a consciousness that's probably not, between your ears, but probably somewhere else. There's aspects of us that's probably somewhere else. I don't believe every aspect of myself is in this avatar. So they want, this whole society script is to get people to believe that the body and materialism, it's all there is. And one of the great ways to do that is that's also the same reason the gay agenda was pushed so aggressively. It's like, well, if it's not about looks and ooh, me, and please watch the Gigi Gorgeous trailer if you're for the movie. The tagline is, "This is everything." This is everything. A man having all sorts of cosmetic surgery, getting his or her nose broken, changing their name, doing all this cosmetic stuff. What was the tagline? This is everything. You know how sick that is? It's completely contradictory to the message that the supposed left is supposed to be bringing us for 15 or 20 years, where it shouldn't be about looks. So part of the confusion of the society, or the reality, is it's never consistent. It confuses on all aspects. And the confusion is probably, the confusion probably hits home to people on a more of a subconscious level than actually consciously somebody saying, well, didn't they make a big stink about how like these Kate Moss waif models and now the models, I remember 15 years ago walking by Guess Jeans or The Limited or some of these stores where the models were noticeably, they always had a model that was like chubby or not the classic model. And okay, that's, so then, and then you see the transgender force-fed implementation, and it's all about looking in the mirror. It's so consciously people won't ever stop and say, you know, that's so hypocritical. One is all about looks, and this is one saying it shouldn't be about looks. I think it's probably meant to confuse the subconscious, things that we're not even aware of, just make us more fucked up in the brain without even being aware of it. Anyway, this is long, and just trying to, I don't want to hide out behind these chapters so people don't know who I am. Just a regular guy trying to figure out the craziest, a world that we couldn't possibly imagine would exist. We just can't. Where we are is just, we could have never imagined how bizarro world this is. Getting more bizarre by the day. So I want to pop in, show people who's behind the who's behind the channel, and I can't talk anymore. I'm just completely spent. But I will try to load chapter 8. I don't know, maybe not today, but probably tomorrow morning at the latest. And thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, it's Matt, Pennsylvania here. I think we're going to almost 0 tomorrow, but that's nothing compared to Chicago and Wisconsin and the Dakotas that are already, I think, almost -20 without wind chill. It's going to be a brutal 3 days. Hats off to you for those in the cold like me. That's probably like 25 states. Just wanted to pop in for a few reasons. One, as I'm presenting these chapters, I don't want to become that nameless, faceless, unknown YouTube voice. Like, who the hell's behind this channel? You know, I mean, in the truth community, why be nameless and faceless? They know who you are. They know everything you've clicked on. They know if you've been bad or good. Why bother? I mean, so I don't know. I guess if you have kids or a family, it's a little bit different and maybe makes you feel a little bit secure. So I wanted to pop in to show anybody that's potentially new who's behind this channel. Just a regular person trying to figure out an absolutely bizarro world. The world is not what it was when we grew up. I'm in my late 40s. It's changed. Something's changed. In several videos I've pondered, or we've pondered, did something happen? Or has it always been this way? And we now, being able to see with a different perspective or a different set of eyes, we can notice it. And I absolutely believe that something changed in the world itself. And that's not going to be the purpose of this